I've been to plenty of awesome video game arcades in Japan over the years, but for sheer spectacle, none have topped Kawasaki Warehouse. I mean, just take a look at this place. The distressed, rust-covered, weather-beaten exterior, the subterranean tunnel leading into and out of the arcade, the dilapidated buildings, storefronts and signs found inside, and amongst it all, hundreds of arcade units. It truly was a one-of-a-kind venue until it closed its doors for good in November 2019. So what was Kawasaki Warehouse all about? Let's find out. Located a short distance south of Tokyo, Kawasaki Warehouse was themed after Kowloon Walled City, a towering ramshackle block in Hong Kong comprised of 500 interconnected buildings and over 50,000 residents by the time it was demolished in 1993. This made it one of the most densely populated places on the planet. It was dank, dirty and lawless, often rife with drugs and crime, but also full of businesses and restaurants thanks to the cheap rent and lack of regulations. It's a fascinating piece of history, in other words, but also a pretty curious theme for a Japanese video game arcade. Regardless, the effort put into theming Kawasaki Warehouse, and the level of detail in particular, was nothing short of incredible. Coming in from the car park, you stepped across a luminous green pool before walking through a stone tunnel seemingly hewn from the earth. From the front entrance, you walked along a dimly lit, claustrophobic corridor, a tangle of wires and exposed pipes hanging overhead, leading to the elevators which were bathed in an intense red glow from the neon sign above. In the arcade itself, the cafe area's theming reached up 2 levels all around, with walkways, ramshackle apartments, hanging washing and weather-beaten signage above, a street food stall, apartment entrance, and appropriately distressed vending machine and UFO catcher below. Grimy was the word. Every surface covered by rust, flaking paint or torn posters, and decorated with authentic props, from letterboxes, fans and bird cages through to street signs and posters, much of it sourced from Hong Kong. And nestled amongst it all, a smorgasbord of arcade gaming. And, fine marble sculptures for some reason also. The incredible decor was probably the main reason most non-locals made the trip to Kawasaki Warehouse, but it was a pretty great arcade too, with something for everyone across its multiple levels. Fighting games, both classic and modern, were heavily represented, while every other genre had some amount of presence, with banks of multiplayer shooters, as well as strategy card games, rhythm games, racing games, MOBAs, shmups, arcade classics, and a whole lot more. Many of the older games were 50 yen a play, and there were also signs up indicating the difficulty level, so if you wanted a challenge, you could find it. The retro cabinet selection was awesome too, with a range of classic titles including Gauntlet, Galaga, Outrun, Space Harrier, Radmobile, yes, that Radmobile.
Radmobile.
A 3-screen Darius setup, and amusingly, the original Street Fighter, complete with its huge punch and kick buttons. It's not a great game, but was still cool to see. And finally, being in Japan, Kawasaki Warehouse also had metal games, elaborate horse racing installations, patchy slot machines, dartboards, ping pong tables, and so much more. It was a huge place, and despite being hamstrung by an 18+ policy, catered to plenty of different audiences. Just why Kawasaki Warehouse closed, we don't know for sure. All we can do is pay homage to one of the Japanese arcade scene's most unique locations, and hope that all those game machines find a good home. If you're planning a trip to Japan, check out my 20 essential tips. And if you're interested in visiting arcades while you're there, check out my profiles on Taito Hey and Game Center Mikado.